Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast, sponsored by Lone Oak Coffee. Start your day off right. Go to loneoakcoffee.com, order some coffee, use promo code COFFEE2020. Today, I talk with Redskins legend London Fletcher, who now analyzes the NFL for CBS Sports. We talk about Chase Young, Ron Rivera, his buddy Thomas Davis, the 4-3 defense, and of course, the Hall of Fame. He was generous with his time, so you will enjoy it. And then I wrap up with a few thoughts on Dwayne Haskins' recent first-person piece on Redskins.com. Don't forget to check out my work on ESPN.com. Next week, I'll have a story on Chris Thompson's foray into free agency from start to finish. Check it out. And now, here's my conversation with former Redskins linebacker London Fletcher. Now I'm joined by legendary linebacker, and I say Redskins, but you also work for other teams too, but you guys all know with the Redskins, London Fletcher, and London is a really good guy. I'm going to explain why, because we originally taped this a couple days ago, and I was having problems with Zoom, and London was good enough to come back, so I really appreciate that. So London, let's get started with your thoughts on the Redskins drafting Chase Young.
I was thrilled that they took Chase Young. I thought Chase is the best player in this year's draft. He fits perfectly for what the Redskins are going to do this year, moving to a 4-3 defense under Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio. You can never have too many pass rushers, and the thing that I love about Chase is he's not just a pass rusher. He can rush the quarterback, but he also can stop the run. So I thought he was a perfect fit for the Redskins.
As an edge rusher, what do you like about his game?
Well, I like first and foremost, you like his size, his skills, his speed, athleticism, all those things that some things were just God given.
Right.
But then you like his tenacity, the way he plays the game, the skill set that he brings, and then also you look at him and you look at the potential to where you see the sky's really the limit for him, where he's just scratching the surface. So you have to like all those things when you look at Chase Young.
What and how good do you think he can be? Like what level are we talking about with him here?
When you look at him, just based on how he looks coming into the league, he definitely looks like a perennial Pro Bowl player, and he has the talent where you say if he stays healthy and he continues to develop the talent that he already has, you're talking about a guy who comes in with where you look and say, man, this guy has potential Hall of Fame type of talent.
What is it? Because you know what it takes to get to a certain level. So when a guy comes in the league with that kind of talent, what's the separator? Is it just simply the work they're going to put in? What's the separator that takes a guy from that potential to the realization of that?
First and foremost, obviously you have to stay healthy.
Right.
And something's just out of your control where injuries happen. But staying healthy, the work ethic, the amount of things that you put in, not just on the field or in the classroom, but in the weight room, doing all the necessary things to be able to excel, getting your rest, nutrition, all those things, and then being coachable too, and understanding that, hey, regardless of me being in Chase's case, being the number 2 overall pick, I still have a lot of work to do. And he seems like the type of kid who's going to work extremely hard and try to live up and be the best player that he possibly can be.
So when you look at their front now with going to a 4-3, what do you think about that change given the talent that they have along that front?
I love it. It's when you look at the guys they have, Montez Sweat, Chase, Matt Ioannidis, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen. Those guys, man. That's a group that can really get at the quarterback. Think about the 4-3 defense. It allows your defensive front to really set the tone of the way your defense is going to play. And when you play in a 3-4 like the Redskins played in the past, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years,
Since
it's
2010,
yeah, a lot of times your defensive line, they're not asked to necessarily be disruptive, but in the 4-3 defense, they will be asked to be disruptive. Right. They'll be disruptive, rushing the quarterback and also stopping the run. So I think when you got those guys, it makes sense to make that switch to the 4-3.
Did you like the 3-4 at all?
I like some aspects of it. I played the 3-4 for 4 years of my career. And then the rest of my 12 years, I played in the 4-3 defense. And I was able to make the 3-4 work, understanding how, what I have to do to make the 3-4 work. It was a 3-4 we played in was more of a 2-gap. It's not a situation where the linebackers were able to play downhill. So you don't have a lot of tackles for loss, or we didn't have a lot of tackles for loss in that type of defensive scheme. With the 4-3 that I was accustomed playing, it's one man, one gap, so to speak, downhill. You're attacking. So I enjoyed that 4-3 scheme, but again, I understood why Coach Shanahan wanted to make the switch to the 3-4, and I tried to make it work the best possible.
You played for Greg Williams here, Greg Blash, and then Jim Haslett. People look at scheme in 3-4, 4-3. For you, what made a defense good? Because you played with some defenses were good, and then some that weren't as good as what you would have wanted.
Well, first, talent too. Talent makes a difference. What kind of players you have. Whether you're playing in a 3-4, 4-3, whatever. You have to start with and understand what type of talent you have, and then getting your coach or the coaches to understand, what each guy or collectively what kind of fits these guys the best from a game plan standpoint. Getting the most out of your players. So those are things that the really good coaches too do. They'll have a kind of a core scheme that they want to run, but then understand, okay, let's tweak it to fit the talent that my players have.
What do you think? Because you were playing some good defenses here, and then at the end it wasn't as good. What was it? Just the talent that changed, or was it? What do you think led to that, to the downfall of that? Because the defense hasn't been very good ever since then.
Man, I think obviously part of it was I'm not gonna say it was talent. It was just oftentimes you're trying to. I thought because when you look at the guys that we had, my last 4 years in DC when we played the 3-4, we had guys who can make plays, but oftentimes it's just, all right, how can we utilize these guys the best way possible, or things like that. That was really kind of something that I think you had to kind of look at and say, okay, what's the best way to maximize the talent that we have.
One of the guys, and I'm going to get back to the current stuff in a minute, but one of the guys that you played with, speaking of talent, was the late Sean Taylor. What kind of special talent was he? And how much do you, every once in a while, do you find yourself thinking about what he may have done? I mean, how much do you think about that part of it?
Well, Sean, he was a special player. He could play in any type of scheme. He was blessed with tremendous size and speed and skills and instincts, being 6'3" and being able to run like he can run, and just his instincts, and also studying the game the way he studied the game, and also the way Greg was using him.
Right.
I mean, the sky was the limit for Sean. Every year people talk about when Sean, obviously on the anniversary of his death, and you see memories of or plays of that he used to make, and I mean he had the potential to be one of the all-time greats.
He did, and it's funny because or not funny, but I know people look at you in a certain light for what you did here. One of those guys is Chase Young. Chase Young actually listed you as one of his favorite players going, or whatever. So he's a fan of your game and what you did. So it's got to feel pretty good with that, right?
Oh yeah, that feels pretty good. To know that's one of the younger guys. They kind of like my game and appreciated the way I played the game. That makes me feel pretty good.
What you're down in Carolina, so what's your relationship with Ron Rivera? What do you know about him? What have been your dealings with him, and what do you think about him as a head coach?
Well, I've met Ron a couple of times on a couple of occasions at some charity golf events. Had a chance to speak with him a couple of times. Nothing in great detail, but just being a fan of football and a student of the game and just loving football for all my life. I've always studied defenses, studied, different teams, and I appreciate the way he goes about leading his team. I always thought he was a tremendous leader of men. Just watching him from afar down here in Carolina, I know several people that play for him, and they love him. Speak extremely highly of him. I think his approach, the way he's going to hold everybody accountable, is going to benefit the Redskins in general. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the Redskins will look like under his leadership.
How hard, you were in that building, and people talk about how tough it can be at Redskins Park sometimes. Can he go in there and change the culture to get it the way it needs to be conducive to winning?
I think he can. When you first and foremost, when Mr. Snyder has really given him the keys to the organization, right, and said, "Hey, this is going to, it's going to be one voice leading our organization," and you see some of the changes that have already been made just from the front office standpoint, also with the trainers, things like that. So those things, Ron's his fingerprints are going to be all over this organization. And I think one of the great things, and just listening to him kind of talk, he wants it to be a collaborative effort.
Right.
And even though he has the ability to be in control of everything, it doesn't seem like that's the way he's going to approach it and the way he feels is going to be the best way to go about it. But I think when you look at some of the trades that have already been made, trading the Trent Williams, trading Quentin Dunbar, things like that, you understand that there will be some type of change.
Thomas Davis, another guy they brought in. When you came here, you were a younger veteran, but they wanted you for the leadership, your voice and all that. Davis, a little bit further along in his career, but they also like that. What do you know about Thomas Davis? What do you think about him as a player?
I know Thomas well. He lives just around the corner from me here in Charlotte, so I know him well. Thomas is extremely great leader. He still has, even though he's older in age, he can still run. He came in out of college as a safety and was converted to linebacker. He was like a 4.4 guy. So even though he may have lost a half a step or so, he's still extremely fast. And just watching him play last year for the Chargers, he was still out there making plays for that defense. So Ron loves the leadership, but that Thomas is going to bring. But he also is looking forward to the playmaker that he's going to be, and he'll also be able to convey Ron's message to the locker room.
It's a big deal
because he played for so many years. He'll be able to explain to guys how Ron wants things done, and that's extremely valuable.
How valuable is that? Because you've been the coach on the field too, but in the locker room, how valuable is it to have a guy like that who can spread the gospel of Ron, so to speak?
It's extremely valuable. Just anytime you have a in-depth knowledge of somebody, especially as you're coming together, you have a new coach, you can say, hey, coach, hey guys, this is the way he wants things done. If we do these things, he's going to reward us, so to speak. But just sometimes you can have guys who may want to kind of push back on certain things the coach may want. If you have a guy who's been with them and know, hey, no, this is not something you want to push back on him about. He's going to be a stickler about these certain things, and he can kind of nip things in the bud before things get out of hand. So there is a value in that.
A couple months ago, I stopped into a store for a sandwich, but it was the smell of the coffee that knocked me over. That's when I fell in love with Lone Oak Coffee. I bought some of their Mexican blend and was happy for the rest of the week. Lone Oak is a small specialty-based coffee roaster company in Winchester, Virginia. They finished 9th in the nation in the U.S. Coffee Roasting Championships in 2017. They have received many awards for their house blend at the world's largest coffee roasting competition. Here's what I love about Lone Oak. They dial in each coffee to fit its best profile, bringing out the natural nuances and highlighting interesting flavors. I'm drinking their Brazilian blend now with a mix of nutty and almond flavors. They have coffees from all over the world. I love their smooth Colombian with hints of cocoa and caramel apple. Go to loneoakcoffee.com, Loneoak coffee.com, and when you order, use the code COFFEE2020. That's COFFEE2020. You will receive a 5% discount with free shipping on any orders over $25. Start your day off right with Lone Oak Coffee.
For you, how do you look back on your career now that you've been away from it for a few years?
I think I had a great career. I had a phenomenal career. And I still.
I would hope you would say that.
Oh yeah, I really don't. I look back on it somewhat, but it's one of those things where I guess I appreciate it more now that I'm finished. Because when you're in the midst of it and you're going through, you don't have time to really appreciate the things that you're accomplishing.
Sure.
And as I sit back and kind of think about some things and go and do some research on some of the numbers that I put up, and I'm like, man, this is I had a Hall of Fame career.
Right.
It's just I had a phenomenal career. I was one of the best to ever do it at my position.
Yeah, I mean, and when you look at the Hall of Fame, it took so long for people to appreciate to get you in that Pro Bowl. How do you view Canton for yourself?
It's one of those things where when you look at what I accomplished on the field, the numbers, the production, the impact that I had, the winning the Super Bowl, starting on Super Bowl teams that went to the Super Bowl, all the things that my career brought about, and I compare it with some guys who are currently in the Hall of Fame, some guys who will be Hall of Famers. It's right up there with all of those guys, if not better than some of the guys that are currently in the Hall of Fame. So it's one of those situations where I know if I feel like this, if I had played in Washington my whole career and put up the type of numbers that I put up, it would be a no-brainer because, sometimes you play in Buffalo's a smaller market. St. Louis was a smaller market. You just don't get the type of exposure and the national attention in those places like I got when I played in D.C. A lot of times I got overlooked just because of those things.
Right.
When it comes to the Pro Bowls, guys were making Pro Bowls over me, and it was just like, really, this guy made the Pro Bowl over me? It's a popularity contest.
Right.
If you sit in those meetings when we select the Pro Bowl, it's a joke the way it's done. I even had one instance where Lofa Tatupa, he made the Pro Bowl over me 2007, my first year in DC, and I
remember that.
He and Patrick Willis were the guys who made the Pro Bowl, and you look at the numbers I put up that year. We ended up playing Seattle in the playoffs,
right?
And after the game was over, Lofa comes up to me and is like, man, you should have made the Pro Bowl over me. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's what I'm thinking. I didn't say that to him, but,
right.
Even he recognized, like, he didn't deserve to go over me. But, that's kind of the way things were. I know as it relates to the Pro Bowl there, to the Hall of Fame, there is a popularity part of that too. And then, some people's reputation is bigger, but hopefully the Hall of Fame voters will see past all the other stuff and really recognize what I accomplished on that field. Because when you look at my numbers and my accomplishment in comparison to anybody, I'm talking all the Hall of Famers, they're as good or better than a lot of those guys.
And how much they factor in too, because there were things that you would do that maybe others weren't being responsible for, calling the plays, the coach on the field. To me, that's a big part of your job. So how much and I know that's kind of like it's an intangible, but how important should that be when people are looking at something like that?
That's part of it. But also I think schemes too. I look at it like my last 4 years in that 3-4.
Right.
Heck, I covered more receivers than cornerbacks did. I felt like it. And most middle linebackers weren't asked to do that.
Right.
But, it's just what I was able to do. And I excelled doing it, making a ton of passes defense, making a ton of interceptions, maybe, forcing the quarterback to go some other way. It's so many things beyond just the even though I have great numbers too, but when you really delve into it, and for, I guess it's about being able to being in the conversation where you get to the semifinals. I thought it was a total disrespect that here I am. I haven't even made it past the first round of the Hall of Fame selection. Like, that baffles me.
Right.
For me to even have my case truly made, I think that's been totally disrespectful to me and what I accomplished.
Is it hard because, like, if I'm you, I got a competitive side to me that's like, I know I belong in there. How much do you think about it though? Because like it'd be hard to not to think about it, but I would try not to, but it would be hard not to because I'm a competitive person. For you, what is it like? I mean, do you think about it much, or is it more just when it comes up in conversation?
More when it comes up in conversation, whether it's when the Hall of Fame, the initial list comes out, or they cut down to the semifinals, the 25 guys, and I don't make the list, and then or somebody comes up to me and they're asking, "Hey man, when are you gonna make the Hall of Fame?" And then it's like, that's when when I get pissed off. But as far as it's not something I think about on a daily basis, or when I hear or read something about some guy being, he's a surefire Hall of Famer, and they might mention me as being borderline. What borderline? What are you talking about? Have you really paid attention?
Right.
I'll put it to you like this. I didn't realize this until recently, where I looked at the top tacklers in NFL history, and I'm number 2 currently,
right,
behind Ray Lewis. I can't remember how many tackles I'm behind Ray Lewis. It's not a ton, but if you think about any other stat, whether it's passing yards, touchdowns, receptions, receiving TDs, sacks, interceptions, where is the number 2 guy if he's retired and eligible for the Hall of Fame, not already in the Hall of Fame?
Right.
You can tell me a person who hasn't been in who's not already in the Hall of Fame who finished their career number 2 in any category in the National Football League. It makes no sense.
Especially because
people will say, well, tackles aren't that important. People may say, well, it's tackles. Tackles are a fundamental aspect of the game, and in order for the pass rusher to be able to rush the quarterback, somebody has to get that quarterback in a third down situation, and most of the time it's the middle linebacker or somebody making tackles to be able to put his team in a position to get to third down.
Well, it's also, as you know, in times for you, I would say for you, in behalf of you, it's where you're getting those tackles too, because in watching you play, there's a lot of times where you're making the read, you're hitting the guy in the hole, 2 or 3 yard gain. that's a really good tackle. You know what I mean? So I think, and especially over the course of a career,
Yeah, it's something you might have to make my case, John.
I may have to.
You seem to get it, and I'm. It's a lot of knowledgeable guys who are on the
Yeah.
Hall of Fame committee. I don't know how they go about the cut down to the 25 guys and how close I've been to getting to that list, but to where you really can start to have that conversation, or they can really start to have that conversation and say, hey man, let's really look at what London Fletcher accomplished in the National Football League at 5'10" from a
Right.
Division III school, 16-year career, never missed a game, started 15 consecutive years. I mean, we go on. They'll go on and on once they start to realize, like, oh, this guy did a lot.
I think you're right. Hey, another guy, got just a couple more things for you, and I appreciate your time. Trent Williams' situation. You were here when he was here. He's a popular guy. You look like one of those guys who's going to be up in the, in the Ring of Honor or Ring of Fame, which I always forget which one it is, but up on the ring someday. And now it looks like that's kind of gone. How do you look at like the connection to an organization from the standpoint of a guy who is popular with the team? And is that bridge burned, do you think?
I don't think the bridge is burned, because you can't deny what Trent accomplished during his time in Washington. I think it was 7 Pro Bowls he made, if I'm not mistaken. How many years was Trent there?
Since
9?
2010, yeah.
So, spending 9 years there and what he was able to accomplish during his time in Washington. As far as his legacy there, it's already cemented. He'll be in the Ring of Fame there, and deservedly so. I was disappointed that they weren't able to work things out,
right.
Where he was able to still remain a Washington Redskins. And it's selfishly because he's one of the best left tackles in football, right. And I want the Redskins to do well, and to not have he's one of the best football players at a premier position. I ran into Trent back in January or end of December at the college football semifinal game between Oklahoma and LSU, and he looked really good. He was talking about how good his body felt, and at that time Bruce was still with the organization, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But I was I was hoping that they were able to work things out, but it didn't work out. I'm going to still be a Trent Williams fan. I want him to do well. He's a friend of mine. I just selfishly, I want him to be still wearing the burgundy and gold.
Right. You still root for this team, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're the team I root for the most in the National Football League. I'll watch the Browns a little bit, but the Redskins are my team that I root for. Even though the Rams helmet is in the back, but
right.
That's just more about where I'm sitting. My accomplishments there. Yeah, I'm a big Redskins fan.
One last thing I want to ask you about is RG3. You had the locker next to him when he came in as a rookie. You saw what he did. Are you surprised where his career has gone? And and now I also give him credit because he's still trying to help and he's still staying in the league, doing what he's supposed to do. But are you surprised where his career has gone?
I am surprised. If you had told me after his rookie year that Robert would be on his third team, and a backup now, I would have said, "Well, you got to be kidding me! There's
right.
no way he would be on another team." I would expect for him to still be in Washington playing for the Redskins, and being a multiple time Pro Bowler and All Pro and things like that, and lead his franchise to possibly Super Bowls. But I definitely am surprised by the things that has transpired with his career. But to his credit, like you said, he's continued to grind and still try to he's serving as a backup for Lamar Jackson now, and hopefully he'll get another opportunity to become a starting quarterback and kind of to make the most of it.
do you think he can still go out there and beat, because the way the game's gone, can he still go out there? Do you think if he gets that other chance, could he be that guy again?
I think he can. As you grow older and you mature and you become wiser to things. One of the things, he's healthy now, and health was a big issue that he dealt with.
Sure.
Early in his career, or lack thereof, not being healthy. So now he's healthy and he understands the quarterback position a lot better than he did when he was a rookie or a second-year player. So I think if he's put in the right situation with the right type of players around him, a head coach who believes in him, a head coach who's going to utilize his strengths and whatever his skill sets are, I think he can be a productive quarterback in the National Football League.
Last quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, again, Redskins guy. You're an Ohio State guy too. What do you think of him, and what do you think he could be for the Redskins?
I thought Dwayne got better each week last year. Once he became a starter, and I know he had the performance against the Giants was not good when he was thrusting in. I don't know how many reps he was getting in practice in terms of being with the starters, and that's extremely difficult for a young guy to be put in a situation where you have live bullets being thrown at you. You haven't taken any first team reps at all in practice, and veteran quarterbacks can do that, but for a young guy who doesn't have that type of experience, that's extremely tough. But once he was thrust into this position as starter, now he's getting all those reps. He's learning how to prepare as a starter, and I saw him getting better. And the game where he got injured, I thought he was playing some outstanding football.
Yeah.
The thing that I would have loved to see is for him to have a full off season of work, the OTAs, the mini camps, the being able to work with his guys. Unfortunately, the situation with the coronavirus has changed things up. But hopefully I'm sure he's working, but it's a different type of work where you're not being able to get all those reps. I mean, you're talking during the course of a off season, man. That may be about 1,000 reps that you can have during the offseason.
Very last thing I want to ask you about, because and again, I appreciate your time, but I got to ask you about Adrian Peterson, because you would have seen him, gone up against him. The fact that he's still playing and doing what he's doing, what are your thoughts on him and what you've seen, and just for him as a player?
When I saw that Adrian was coming into to Washington for a workout, I texted people who were the decision maker. I was like, man, you signed that guy because of what he was going to bring. I thought he was going to be a tone setter for the offense, and he was a tone setter for the offense. I continue to watch him and the way he approaches the game. He's going to continue to play well because of his mindset. I played in the Pro Bowl with Adrian, and normally Pro Bowl practice is kind of laid back, almost like a walkthrough, maybe a little bit of a jog pace. And this guy is going full bore, almost running up his lineman's back. and this is a Pro Bowl, and that's kind of his mentality, where he's all out all the time, and that's why he's been able to have the Hall of Fame career that he has had, and he continues to play at a high level, even though most people would think, man, how's he still, or wonder how is he able to still do that. But when you look at his talent and his work ethic, it makes a lot of sense.
It does. London, man, and I appreciate you very much joining me again like this, and I'm rooting for you to get in the Hall of Fame, because not just because you're a fellow Cleveland guy, but because I think it's remarkable what you did. Your story is a Hall of Fame story, and I think it's worthy, and your impact on the game and all that. So I'm hoping that you get there. And hopefully someday maybe I'll be in a position to cast that vote for you. So we'll see.
All right. All right. Thanks a lot, John.
After this break, I'll be back with a few thoughts on Dwayne Haskins and his recent first-person piece on Redskins.com.
This episode of the John Keim Report is brought to you by Manscaped, the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming. I bet you're looking for things to do while you're at home. We're all in quarantine. Why not make manscaping part of your routine? Look fresh, feel fresh. Manscaped is forever changing the grooming game. They've got the Perfect Package 3.0. The kit comes with their new and improved Lawnmower 3.0. It's waterproof, cordless body trimmer, and a ton of other liquid formulations. Trust me, on the bath and shower gel, it smells amazing and it works great. It is the perfect package to keep you fresh and feeling like yourself here while we're all at home. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code KEIM at manscaped.com. That's 20% off free shipping with the code KEIM, K-E-I-M, at manscaped.com.
Welcome back. Now here are a few thoughts that I have after reading Dwayne Haskins' first-person piece on Redskins.com. Number one, he didn't discuss any of the coaching issues and who wanted him or who didn't. He chose to focus on his own growth, and I feel that was smart. Now, I'm sure the Redskins weren't going to go down that road anyway. It would have led to headlines that he didn't need or didn't want, same for the team. But instead, it was wisely about his own growth on the field and as a quarterback. Number two, Haskins talked about the input he received from quarterback Alex Smith, and that's something I wrote about in detail back in November. I believe it was in November, shortly after Haskins had taken over as a starter. It was Smith, for example, who suggested Haskins do little things like lift on a Tuesday so he could get into the game plan earlier and stay in it longer on Wednesday. That was a big deal. Before, Haskins was doing the reverse, and it made it harder for him to pick up the game plan at the speed the coaches needed him to. Haskins said Smith helped him after the Minnesota game, and after that game, Haskins had told him he doesn't understand why it's not coming as easy to him as it did at Ohio State. Smith's reply was basically, of course it's hard. You're a rookie. It's why Smith is important to keep around. But I also know that Doug Williams provides that sort of guidance for Haskins too. Having said that, it is good to have somebody like that in the meeting rooms. I think it's also equally important and huge that Haskins listens to other people. That doesn't always happen. Number three, Haskins realized that he couldn't be sloppy with his eyes. I think that's a common lesson for quarterbacks, but especially one with only 14 starts coming out of college. And in those games, most were not against high-level defenses. He had a lot of talent around him. Because of that, you could get away with certain habits or without strict attention to detail. But again, I love that he learned. And he also learned from talking to teammates Tim Settle and Ryan Anderson about how, in practice, they could tell when he was going to snap the ball by where he stood. All of it helps. But these little lessons are why it took him a long time. It wasn't just about picking up the offense. It was about everything. He had to learn how to be an NFL quarterback. And I said that over and over when people wanted to know why isn't he playing, it's because he had a ton to learn. Listen, I was told that even back in September, he was still having a hard time with all the formations. He had so much in his head with just trying to master the offense and then master the cadence and master this and master that, that it's really hard to then go up to the line of scrimmage and feel comfortable and confident. It's hard to get all this down when you're trying to learn a new offense and, again, how to read and attack an NFL defense. I never, ever bought into any notion that he wasn't smart because I talked to him and I talked to others about him. I knew that the kid was smart. And for the people I trust there, it was always about him needing to do the extra work to be successful. Not so much that he wasn't working or that he couldn't do it. It's just that he had to do the extra work. Number four, his demeanor against the New York Giants. He addressed this. It was terrible. It was bad throughout much of the early season, in fact. And you saw some pictures of him on the bench at one point when I think Kevin O'Connell was talking to Case Keenum and Colt McCoy were over there, and then Dwayne was at the end of the bench kind of like just not engaged. It wasn't a good look. And I saw other pictures throughout that game that were just as bad. It wasn't a one-time thing. He knows this. The teammates know it. And so but I like that he points it out. He understood that. And I think that's the important thing. When I used to coach and I have my kids, I tell them it's not so much what you do, it's what you learn from it. And I think that if he took that from it, then that's good. And it was the Miami game for me where I think he started to change, where I saw him start to change his mindset around. It was the first game after the change in coaches. He had more energy before the game. He was on the field early, throwing passes with Chris Cooley and I think one other teammate, I can't remember who. Then in the warm-ups, you saw more energy. But it was really his start at Buffalo that I saw the biggest difference. And he pointed that out in that piece as well. And it said a lot about him coming after a bad game against Minnesota. I was struck pregame by how Haskins was moving around and carrying himself. I could see the confidence. And even though they lost the game, I remember telling him after the game in the locker room that it's like, you look like a different guy. You look more confident. And I could see it and how it reminded me of the guy that I watched in college. It wasn't about the results, but it was about the confidence and starting to lay a foundation. In the article, Haskins said he felt more confident in that Buffalo game. I had one coach tell me that Haskins started to see the extra work he was putting in pay off on Sundays. That's where you get confidence. When you feel good about the work you put in, you're going to feel more confident going into a game. And I think that's what we started to see later in the year. Finally, he said there were a lot of times last year that they were dragging and that, of course, was evident to anybody who watched them. Last year felt like a 16-game exhibition season starting in week 1. It was brutal, folks. You know it. I agree the changes they made were absolutely needed, and there is a definite new energy from the people I talk to. There is a feeling like it's a new day out there. Now, a lot of things still have to be proven on the field, but with change comes energy. And I think Haskins will benefit from that. There's a long ways to go. One first-person article doesn't mean a whole lot in the grand scheme, but I like that he could point out specific areas of improvement and where he learned and where he grew. Let's see if he's a different player once we have a chance to be around him. If he didn't develop better habits later in the season, or if he didn't listen to others, I'd have some worries about him. But after the way he finished, and with what I've heard him working on in the offseason, I am intrigued. That's it for this week. A big thank you to London Fletcher for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. And as always, a massive thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit loneoakcoffee.com and use promo code COFFEE2020. Talk to you next time.